I'm going to start changing my coffee to whatever it is that Tony has been drinking because I want some of that. That's all that I can say about that. I hope you've had an awesome morning already. Tony does an excellent job of getting us pumped up and fired up. And I hope you've been fired up so far about 2013 ending and 2014 beginning, because I am pumped up. We got this idea of living on the edge. We're going to live on the edge for God. And it's exciting. And the past couple of weeks has been just extremely wicked awesome. We've set out some goals, and instead we're going to do some things. And last week was awesome. I love that. And one person told me, said, you know what, I've actually picked up things, and I'm actually going to do what all that God's called me to do. And I thought, that's awesome. And then somebody else told me, said, I have been praying that God would just set me on fire. And then I think of that spreading out, and I think some of that's sitting down upon Tony, but it spreads. It spreads. And if we're not careful, though, we'll say, well, oh, it's awesome. 2014, this is the best year I've ever had. But you're only 2 weeks into it. This is the second Sunday that there is. And we're like, oh man, it's awesome. We're setting goals. I'm keeping to my diet. I'm not going to ask y'all how many of y'all have set diet goals and exercises if you're keeping up with it. But we have these goals, and we're going to keep up with it. We're going to go. We're going to lose weight. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to step up. We're going to be the mom we ought to be, or we're going to be the dad we should be, or we're not going to let people get us down, or we're not going to let our people drag us down, or a smelly uncle, or whoever it may be. We are not going to get dragged down. We're going to let 2014 be extremely awesome. And it is. And we can do that. It's going to be awesome. But if we're not careful, something will happen, and we'll let it just absolutely, totally just destruct us. And we've got all these goals, and we're not letting anything get us down. But if we're not careful, we'll let something just drag us down. Because just because you set out goals, just because you say, you know what, I'm going to live on the edge for God. We've been talking about the life of Elisha. I'm going to be like Elisha, and I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to walk by faith, and it's going to be great. And I've got this idea in my head that just because we do things like that, it just means that everything is just going to be easy as pie. I think it's just going to be awesome. Like, for example, when I got married, I thought it was going to be pie. I really did. I thought it required no work. I just thought it was going to be, you find the woman of your dreams, you say I love you, you say I do, and then it's just like, it's magic. It's not magic. It's work, and it's hard. And I remember the first time that this happened, and my wife just told me, I don't know how many times I shared this story because it's so stinking funny. But when our first year married, and we're coming upon New Year's, and it was awesome. And I love New Year's, and I had this grand idea. For my first New Year's, we're married, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to sit up together, we're going to watch the ball drop, and I'm going to kiss my beautiful wife right on the mouth, and then we can go to bed, and we're just going to celebrate. Well, it was 10 o'clock, and she was asleep. And she didn't wake up. And I was mad, and I was huffing and puffing. And when we got married, we were dirt poor, so we didn't have TV. So I had my watch, and I was watching right here. I was watching 12 o'clock. And I was so mad. And I remember going in that bedroom. She was laying in her bed asleep. She had to get up at like 4 to go to work. And I had no sympathy. It's New Year's. You're supposed to stay up. So I had no sympathy whatsoever. So I went in there. She was asleep on the bed. And I went in there. And as soon as it hit 12 o'clock, I went in there. And I opened the door, and I went, Happy New Year! And I shut the door. And I went back, and I slept on the couch that night. We get these ideas that it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. So what happens when it doesn't feel so awesome? If we're not careful, we'll look at the people in the Bible like Elisha or like Daniel in the lion's den. Everybody loves that story. Or even Noah in the ark, we love that story. And we'll read about the awesome faith of Noah. It's like, man, these guys are awesome. I can be like these superheroes. And then we'll set out, we're like, okay, 2014, it's going to be awesome. I'm setting it out. It's going to be great. I'm going to do my roles. I'm going to live life. I'm going to go to church. I'm actually starting to pray now. And then if we're not careful, something will happen, and it'll discourage us, and we will just quit. We'll just quit. And I get tired of hearing this, and I hear it all the time, and especially hear it from TV preachers a lot. Like, all you got to have is just a little bit of faith. A little bit of faith. Just a little bit of faith. And I read these guys, and I'm like, man, These guys were awesome men of faith, but there's something you have got to understand. And I'm going to show this verse when we go anywhere further. You don't have to turn it, but just look up here on the screen. This is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 13. And it's talking about all these great superheroes of the Bible. And it sums up in this one verse. And it says, these all died. Everybody say they all died. These all died. They all died in faith, listen to this, without having received the promises. They all died in faith without receiving any promises, but they saw them from afar off, from a great distance. They greeted them and confessed that they were foreigners and temporary residents on the earth. It says they died. They died. They were waiting on this promise from God. They were waiting on their next year to be better than the year before. They were waiting for this awesome promise of God, but they died and they didn't even get it. They died. But it says that they died in faith. And that drives me, and I want to ask you this question. What do you do when the promises of God, at best, seem partially unfulfilled? What do you do when 2014, you're like, okay, it's going to be awesome, it's great, but what do you do when it's not? Like these Daniel the Lion's Den and all these great heroes, we think, man, he's a superhero of faith. Guys, he was in a den with lions. And did you know they would actually starve these animals so that way they'd be even more hungry? They were extremely starving to death. So whenever there was a human flesh in there or an animal, guess what it was going to do? It was going to eat something up. I mean, it was like banana pudding in front of me. It is going to be gone. Now, he was in there. Now, what is pleasant about that experience? Now, afterward, it'd be pretty wicked awesome, like Daniel do. How did you do that? Lions in there. He's like, yep, God just shut their mouth. Awesome. But when you're down in the pit, when you're down in there, it's not very pleasant, is it? See, I've got my mindset here that 2014 is going to be the best year that I've ever lived. But I guarantee you that something is going to happen. Guarantee you, something. And you've done the same thing in the past. You said, you know what? We're going to get out of that. And you finally start getting a little bit ahead. And then somebody comes in and says, there's a leak in the bathroom. You're like, oh man, what? And you find out your whole plumbing's got to be replaced. Or you're finally getting ahead on something. And then your washing machine breaks. Or you and your spouse are finally getting along. And then somebody does something. You're like, man, we're back to start all over again, you know. What do you do when the promises of God seem at best partially unfulfilled? No hope inside. Because it said in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 13, that they died and they didn't get the promise. They all died, but they died in faith. They died in faith. They died in faith. Now what that can speak to us is that I think that God's going to use us today. He's going to help you overcome any obstacle that you have to face. Because it's not pleasant. Whether it's a washing machine, whether it's a wife, whether it's a great aunt, whether it's your aging parents, whether it's your divorced ex-husband, whether it's your crazy kids, I believe that God is going to use us today to help you overcome any obstacle. Because we all are faced with this. We're all faced with this. Every one of us. And what do you do? We're going to look today at the life of Elisha and how he intertwined his role with this woman. And it's absolutely amazing. This is in 2 Kings chapter 4, and this is going to be absolutely awesome. Because just like these guys all died hanging on, I think that this is going to be awesome. Because I guarantee you that at some point or another, you came up and you said, you know what, I've had all I can take of my husband. Or you know what, I have had all I can take of my kids. Have you ever done that, come in from work or something? You ever come in? You come in, you finally, somebody comes in from work, whatever, you're like, here, take the kids, I'm going to lock myself, I'm going to take a bath, and I'm not coming out for 3 hours. Right? I've had all I can take. Or maybe be at work, you come home, you say, you know what, I've had all I can take. I can't take it no more. My boss is driving me nuts.
Amen.
I can't take it. I can't take it. And so sometimes we do this with our own family, Like my parents, especially you teens, I've been there. When your mom and dad's crazy, I've been there. I can say that because they're going to watch this later. Your mom and dad's crazy, and they're driving me nuts. They're grounding me because of a towel. They're crazy. What do you do when these promises seem partially unfulfilled. Because this is an absolutely remarkable story. And I apologize ahead of time. This is going to be a lot of scriptures. It's going to go really fast. I encourage you to read this story. 2 Kings chapter 4 is where this starts, and it's absolutely awesome. It's absolutely just awesome. Awesome. It starts in, we're going to start with verse 8. 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8. And it's titled The Shunammite Woman. One day Elisha, he went to Shunem. A prominent woman who lived there persuaded him to eat some food. So whenever he passed by, he would stop there to eat. And then she said to her husband, I know that the one who often passes by here is a holy man of God. So let's make a small room upstairs and put a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp there for him. Whenever he can come, he can stay there. Now, I'm going to pause right there just for a second. Oh, you got this preacher man named Elisha, and he was traveling by, and she couldn't notice him. She says to her husband, let's do something awesome for the preacher man. Let's make sure that he has a room to stay. And you see, we're going to put a bed up there, a table, a chair. We're going to fully accommodate him. Now, doesn't it seem that kind of what we would do in our lives, that, hey, we're starting out this year, we're going to do something awesome, and we're going to make sure that we're doing everything we can for God. And that's what she was doing. She was really giving all that she had. Now, so he began to stop there. So verse 11. One day he came there and he stopped. And he went to the room upstairs to lie down. Now, this was his room. Verse 12. He entered in. He ordered his attendant. I love this name, Gazi. I love that. Call this Shunammite woman. Where do they come up with these Bible names? It's just odd. So they call this Shunammite woman. So we don't know her name. Just call this Gazi. Call this Shunammite woman. So he called her and stood before him. Then he said to his servant Gazi, say to her, look, you have gone through all this trouble for us. What can we do for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army? And she answered, I'm living among my own people. She's like, I'm good. I'm living with my kids. I'm living with my family. It's all good. All good. I don't need nothing. I'm good. She's content. I want you to remember that. She's content. She's living with her family. She's with her people. She's content. Now, let's keep on reading. Verse 14. So he asked, then what should be done for her? Gazi, his servant, answers it, well, she has no son and her husband is old. Verse 15, he said, call her, Elisha said. So Gazi called her and she stood in the doorway. Elisha said, at this time next year, you will have a son in your arms. And listen to her response. She said, no, my Lord. Man of God, do not deceive your servant. She did not ask for this. But yet Elisha, the man of God, who is this wicked, awesome man, insists on her receiving a blessing, a promise from God. Insisting that. And if you keep on reading, verse 17, the woman conceived and gave birth to a son at the same time the following year, just as Elisha had promised. Guys, Elisha was living on the edge, unlike anybody that I've ever seen. I mean, could you just imagine that? Then he said, you know what? You are going to have a baby August 29th next year. And I, you're crazy. And they go, oh, there it is. He did that, yo. I mean, it's amazing. Elisha was awesome, and he walked with God, and he was living by faith. And there is no doubt in my mind that he was living on the edge for God. That is awesome. Awesome. But keep reading. Verse 18. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father and the harvesters. Suddenly he complained to his father, my head, my head. So his head hurt. And listen to what his father told his servant. Carry him to his mother. Is that not funny? That for thousands of years, dads have been saying, go see mom. It's in the Bible. They've done this. I don't know what that is. It's like, dads are always the ones that said, it doesn't matter if you're like barely killing mom's like, oh, shake it off. You're all right. No, you're all right. And moms are there, oh, and they're catering, washcloths, and cleaning you all up. It's a complete difference. And we're seeing that right here. He's seeing it right here. And he says, go take it to his mother. Go see his mom. So he goes. Now let us. So the servant, verse 20, so the servant picked him up and took him to his mother. And the child sat on her lap until noon. And then he died. Now listen to what she did. Then she went up and she laid him on the bed of the man of God. She went and she laid the child down on Elisha's bed. She shut him in, shut the door, and she left. She left. Verse 22, she summoned her husband and said, please send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys so I can hurry to the man of God and then come back. But he said, why to go here today? It's not new moon or Sabbath. She replied, everything is all right. Don't you think it's funny that she didn't even tell her husband the son died? All she did, she took him and she laid him down on his bed, on Elisha's bed. And she went to her husband and said, I need some transportation. Give me the car keys. I got to go see the man of God. And he's clueless. Clueless. And she leaves. And he says, what's going on? Why are you going to go see him right now? But look at her response. She said, everything is all right. She says, everything is all right. Which can easily be translated, I'm not okay right now, but I will be okay shortly. And we say this exact same thing to people. We'll look to people and say, hey, how are you? And it doesn't matter if you've had the worst week ever. We usually say, I'm all right. And we lie right through our mouths. We lie and we tell people, yeah, I'm okay. And like, no, really, yeah? I said, no, really, I'm good. I'm good. My wife's okay. No, I'm good. Everything's good. Everything's good. Everything's going to be all right. And she says the exact same thing. Everything's going to be all right. And what she's saying is, she says, you know what? I'm living in hell right now because my son just died. But no, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. What would be wrong with us is being honest with people and say, you know what? I am absolutely going through complete torture right now. And ask the people to pray for us or to walk with us. She didn't even, this is her husband she was talking to. And she says, you know what? Everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. Now, I think she said this for another reason. We'll get that just until a minute. But the fact of the matter is that we all go through stuff like this. Now, do you know I have some pity on this woman? She didn't even ask for this son. And she's got him. She changed his diapers. She's fed him. She's been raising him. And he's able to communicate. He's out on the farm with his dad. He says, Dad, my head's hurting. I got a bad headache. Go see your mama. Go see your mama. And she is holding that son on her lap until high noon. Midday. When the sun's the brightest, her son passes. We don't see her weeping. We don't see her sorrow. All we see is that her taking her son that she'd wanted for years. She didn't ask for it, but she got it and laid him on the bed of Elisha. Laid him on the bed of Elisha. And the thing about it is, she didn't even ask for it. She didn't even ask for it. And I don't know maybe what you might be relating to going through this right now, and maybe you've had a terrible week, or maybe it's just an awful time. You remember that your 2013 was just full of sorrow. That your parents got sick, you had to make a decision about the nursing home, and then your dog died, and then your husband, you're just not getting along very well, and it seems like everything's in turmoil. Everything. And literally what you're doing right this very minute is that you're absolutely living, breathing hell in your life. It is torture. Nobody can get along. You're not happy at work. You're not happy at home. And you're going through all this. And maybe you said this. I didn't ask for this. See, that's what I said that time whenever I've already shared about the New Year's. See, I wanted the romance from the marriage. I wanted I wanted the happiness and holding hands. And I wanted the romance. And I remember saying, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for the struggles. Did you? I mean, we don't want the struggles in our life, right? But what happens when the promises of God seem at best partially fulfilled? She got a taste of it. A taste of it. Guys, no parent should ever have to bury their child. It's unnatural. No parent should ever have to do that. It's extremely sad. No parent should ever have to do that. So what do you do when you're in this situation? Well, it seems like you and your spouse, you just can't get along, or you just can't make ends meet, or you just can't bring peace upon your family, or every time you go to work, you say, I am not going to let this person get to me. But for some reason, somehow, every stinking day, they find some way to get on your everlasting nerve. Or maybe your kids, when you go to school, you say, I'm not going to let that teacher get to me this time. And every time, they get right to you. Right to you. Right to you. What do you do when the promises of God seem at best partially unfulfilled? Well, she goes right to the man of God. And it's kind of amazing, this story. She says, to her husband, "Nope, I'm going to be all right." But if you read on, this is verse 24. So she left. In verse 24, she saddled the donkey, and she said to her servant, "Hurry, don't slow the pace for me unless I tell you." So she set out and went to the man of God at Mount Carmel, where the man of God saw her at a distance. He said to his attendant Gehazi, "Look, there's a Shunamite woman. Run out to meet her and ask, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your son all right?'" So her servant went out there and asked these things. "Are you all right? Everything all right?" And look at her response, what she says again. "Everything's all right." Guys, it's not all right. And if you look, what she's actually saying is, no, it's not all right, but it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. She says it again. Everything's going to be all right. So they finally meet together, her and Elisha. This is verse 27. So when she came to the man of God, this is Elisha, at the mountain, she clung to his feet. Gehazi came to push her away, but the man of God said, "Leave her alone. She is in severe anguish, and the Lord has hidden it from me and hasn't told me." In verse 28, listen to what she said. She says, "Did I ask my Lord for a son? Didn't I say not to see me?" I didn't ask for this, Elisha. And we say the exact same things. I didn't ask for this. I don't have to put up with this. I don't have to put up with you. I don't have to put up with any of this stuff anymore. And she says, "I didn't ask for this. This is not what I signed up for, but this is what I got." Can you relate to this any at all? About struggles in your life? Like, man, these past few weeks we've been building up, and it's been awesome. And we've been talking about living by faith, and it's awesome. But guys, what do you do when you're walking by faith and you're living by faith? And guys, this is what she was doing. She was walking by faith and she was living by faith. She even accommodated her house so the preacher man could have a place to eat and to stay. She even put a lamp in there. She was doing everything right, but still yet, hell still visited her house. And just because of us, just because we're going to church, or just because we're trying to live for God, doesn't mean that troubles and struggles will not come. They most definitely will come. They will. And it visited her at her house. And guys, she was doing everything right. Everything right. What do you do when the promises of God seem at best partially unfulfilled? He actually did have a son. We don't know how old he was. All we know is he could communicate to his dad. Head. That's all we know. My head. That's all he said. And our almost 2 years old, she can tell you, head. So my guess is the boy was somewhere above the age of 2. I'm thinking pretty young. I don't know for sure. We have no idea. All we know is the boy said, head. 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 Guys, he was gone. He was gone. And she came up to him and she said, "Elisha, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this. In fact, did I not tell you, Elisha, that I'm living among my own people? I told you that I was good. And here you are, you brought all this upon me." I wish you hadn't done that. Have you ever said those words? I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I just stayed single. I wish we'd only had so many kids. I wish we would have had more kids. I wish I had this other job. I wish I would have took this job. I wish I would have took this class. I wish I could have done this. She's like, "I didn't even ask for this. Why'd you get my hopes up?" Now at this time, if I'm Elisha, I'm thinking, "Oh crap, what am I going to do with this woman? What am I going to do?" Here it was, God. And if I'm Elisha, I'm going to be freaking out right now. Like, okay, Elisha, here he is. He's doing all this ministry stuff, and he tells this woman, "Hey, next year you're going to have a son." And then a couple years later, the son's gone. And by Elisha, I'm thinking, man, I am on the hot seat now. And look at what he does. This is extremely absurd what he does. I think it's awesome. All right. Verse 29. So Elisha, he said to his servant Gehazi, he says, "Tuck your mantle under your belt and take my staff with you and go. If you meet anyone, don't stop to greet them. If a man greets you, do not answer them. Then place my staff on the boy's face." That's his response to this. Okay, he turned to his servant. He said, "Here, take my stick and go lay it at the boy's face. Go do that." And look at what the woman said. The boy's mother, she said, "As the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." She's like, that ain't good enough for me. You're going with me. You're going with me. You're coming. I am not letting you out of my sight. I just think that that's awesome because that's a perfect example of a mother who loves her son. I love that. There's something special between a mother and her children. And I will never get to experience that. All I can see is the way that my wife looks at our kids, and it's beautiful, and she looks that way to her son. Even though right now it seems there's no hope. And maybe you feel that right now. There's no hope for your future. There's no hope for your marriage. You're never going to get out of debt. You're never going to get ahead. It's just no hope. You're never going to find that true man that's going to just sweep you right off your feet. You're never going to have the peace in your family. Here she is, without any hope. And she tells the man of God, I'm not leaving your side. That's love, guys. Perfect love. And so Elisha, they leave. They leave. So Gazi, he went ahead. This is verse 31. Verse 31. So Gazi went ahead of them and placed the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound of life. So he went back to meet Elisha, and he said, the boy didn't wake up. Yeah, he did. I laid your stick down there, and it didn't do nothing, Elisha. Laid your stick there. I did exactly what you said. I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't greet nobody. I took your stick and laid it around his head, and he's still dead. He's still dead. He's still dead. And he comes back and tells Elisha he's dead. We've heard this 3 times now. 3 times. First time we heard this is when he actually died in his mother's arms. That's the first time we learned that the boy's dead. And then the mother went and told Elisha, he said, he's gone. And here's the 3rd time, a 3rd confirmation that the boy is dead. Turn to the person next to you and say, he's dead. He's dead. Now turn to your other person and tell them he's dead. He's dead. He is graveyard dead. Y'all know what that means? He's dead. There's no playing possum here. The boy is dead. I want you to understand that. He is dead. Now, I often wonder how hard the servant put the stick at the boy's head. Did he whack him with it, or did he just lay it gently down there? Because I'm sure he was a little nervous. I mean, here you got this mother, is she freaking out? Because I know how moms can freak out because one of their kids have a bicycle wreck, like, oh! And, I call it the gasp of death. That's what gets me worse than anything else is when mothers, they take that gasp and they see their kids fall, so they go, oh! And it's like, it scares the snot out of me. And it just, the gasp. And that, here's the servant thinking, man, I'm going to have to go back and face that woman. I mean, we don't know, but I just can't be curious, Are you awake? Anyway, he goes back to Elisha and he says, again, he said, the boy did not wake up. He's dead. The boy is dead. So verse 32. So Elisha, he got to the house and he discovered the boy, guess what? Dead. Lying dead on the bed. The boy is dead. Okay, we know that for a fact. He's dead. So when he went in, listen what he did. Oh, whose bed was he laying in? Elisha's bed. He's laying in his own bed. Okay? So the boy is laying in his bed. So he goes up there and look at what he does. So he went in, he closed the door behind the 2 of them, and he prayed. And he prayed. He prayed to the Lord. So the first thing he did, he used the stick. The second thing he did, he prayed. Okay. Just want to get that clear. So then he went up. That didn't work. Okay, so he prayed. So first the stick and then he prayed. Verse 34. Then he went up and he lay on the boy. And I love this. He put hand to hand, mouth to mouth, and eye to eye. He sprawled out on this boy. He sprawled out on this boy. So I want you to get that picture of that eye to eye. I mean, he just sprawled out on this boy. Now, I love this. Okay? I love this. So that was verse 34. So he went up and he lay on the boy. He put mouth to mouth and eye to eye, hand to hand. And I love this. When he bent down over, when he done that, the boy's flesh became warm. Okay. We know that. So he got up, verse 35. He got up and he went into the house, and listen to what he did next. He paced back and forth. Is that not what we do? Man, what am I going to do about this situation? And the car's broke down, and we got to buy a new part for the dryer, and then now the heat pump don't work, and it's cold outside, and I got to go to work tomorrow, and we got to take the kids here, and just pacing back and forth. So the first thing he done, he used a stick. Second thing, he prayed. The third thing, he sprawled out on the boy, and the fourth thing, he paced. Elisha, the man of God, paced. And I love that because we get nervous and we pace too. And we wonder, what in the world am I going to do? And here's what I think Elisha was doing. What am I going to tell this Shunammite woman? Here she is. She brought me to her house. I've already tried the stick, God. I done prayed to you, God. I didn't get nothing. And I tried to warm the boy up, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But look what he does. Okay, so he's pacing back and forth. And then he went up and he bent down on the boy again. So he sprawled out on the boy again. And I love this. The boy sneezed 7 times, and he opened his eyes. 7 times, and he opened his eyes. Now this is extremely weak and awesome. First thing, he used a stick. Second thing, he prayed. Third, he sprawled out on him. Next, he paced back and forth. And then he sprawled out on him again. And as he sprawled out on him this time, the boy sneezed. How many times? 7 times. The boy was still dead the first time, the second time. If I'm Elisha, I'm thinking, what in the world's going on? The boy is dead, and I'm laying on him, he's starting to sneeze. Because you're thinking, choo, choo. And I don't know if it was what kind of sneeze it was. It was really deep. I just know he sneezed 7 times. 7 times. And on that 7th time, bam, he's awake. Now what in the world does that mean to us? See, there's a significance about this number 7. Here's what I want you to grab a hold of today. Okay, and I want you to run with this today because this is awesome. See, the number 7 in the Bible is the number of God. And it means completeness or divineness. It means it's finished. And the boy sneezed how many times? 7 times. And this is what you've got to understand. That whatever God starts, He will finish every time. Whatever God starts, He finishes. He started making the earth and forming everything, and it took 7 days, and He got everything rested, and He rested, and He done it. He started and He finished it. He said that He was going to send Jesus, and guess what He did? He sent Jesus. Guess what else He said? He said, I'm going to send Jesus to die for your sins, and guess what He done? He sent Him and He died for our sins. That person that you're married to, God's not done with you yet. God's not done with you yet. Whatever God starts, He always finishes. He's not like us. We start a project and when we get tired, we move on to something else. Or we get tired of this person and we'll divorce him. We'll go over here and find this other person. God finishes whatever He starts. He finishes. God is the ultimate man. He starts it and He finishes it. And I want you to understand this about your life and your situation where you're at now. I don't care how hopeless you think it is. I don't care how hopeless you think you're not going to find somebody to marry worthwhile. I don't care how hard you think it is with your family or with your friends or with your divorced spouse, whoever it may be. Whatever God starts, He finishes it. And whatever He started a good work in you, He's not going to quit until you are completed. But for her, it doesn't seem hopeless. See, as of right now, she doesn't know anything. All she did was take the boy to the man of God. That's all she does. And Elisha, he does his little thing. He does 5 things. And the boy sneezes. Whatever God starts, He always finishes. Guys, this is why it's so important to you that you don't lose faith. That you don't quit. You don't lose heart. You don't give up. You don't give up on your kids. You don't give up on your spouse. That you don't give up on your future. You don't give up on getting out of debt. You don't give up on everything not breaking. You don't give up on this. Because whatever God starts, He's going to finish. And if God has laid something on your heart, then you need to follow through and finish it. Because He will finish it. Whatever God starts, He always finishes. Now, if I'm Elisha right now, I'm thinking, whew. Yes, this is awesome. This is awesome. So look what he does. Verse 36, and I imagine him saying this, puffed out, like chest and a deep voice. He calls his servant. He says, hey, Gazi, call the Shunammite woman. And I can see him saying this. I love this. And he said, call her. And she came forth, and Elijah said, pick up your son. Can't you just see him saying that? I love it when somebody tells me, you can't do that. Oh, yes, I can. And after you get done, it doesn't matter how bad you're hurting, like, done it. I've done it. Woo! And I think that's what he's doing right now, because he was sweating bullets. Remember, he was so tough. I mean, he was pacing back and forth. He's pacing back and forth. And he calls his servant guys and he says, call the Shunammite woman. And when she comes in, he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say, look what God did. Here's what he says. Pick up your son. Pick up your son. Guys, I'm telling you, God's not done with you yet. And just because you hit a tough spot in your life does not mean God's not done with you. It doesn't mean that God hates you. It doesn't mean that the world is against you. It just means that you're going through life that we all do. And look at what she does. She picks up her son, and I love this. She came and fell at his feet and bowed to the ground. She picked up her son, and she left. I love this. Pick up your son. And as she bowed to the ground, pick up your son. Pick up your son, and then she bowed to the ground. Now, how in the world can this story help us out today? if I'm assuming that if someone that you love dies, that you will probably do what most people do. You know, there's a morgue or hospital, you want to do something when they're really sick. She runs to the man of God. She has a tough time. What do you do when the promises of God seem at best partially unfulfilled? What do you do? Guys, here's the one thing that you cannot forget. We're going to set out 2014. We've already said it, it's been awesome. We're going to live on the edge for God. We're going to be men and women of faith, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to watch God do, and I promise you this, we're going to watch God do things in 2014 that you have never seen Him do before in your entire life. It's going to be awesome. Hold on. Because along the way, you will face struggles. You will have arguments with your spouse. Sometimes you and your parents will not get along. Sometimes you and your siblings, you're not going to get along. I can testify to that. My brother is here with me today, and all growing up, we absolutely could not stand each other. And right now, he is my closest neighbor. He is also my best friend. You're going to struggle. It's going to be hard. And just because it gets hard doesn't mean you have to give up. This is what I want you to understand. You're not alone. Not a single one of you are alone. And what one of the tools that Satan uses is to tell you that everybody else's marriage is fine. Everybody else's kids are fine. You're the only one who's crazy. Everybody else's parents are normal. You're the only one who's crazy. And Satan tries to isolate you and get you alone and tell you there's no hope for you. There's no use. You will never find peace. You will never be happy. You will never get pregnant. You will never get through it. Guys, you're not alone. You're not alone. One of the greatest tools Satan uses is to get you alone. He done this with Jesus. Jesus was all alone, and he had been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And I couldn't imagine going 6 hours without eating, much less 40 days. So he was gone for 40 days, and he had to eat. He was alone by himself. And guess who came? Satan. Trying to tear him down. Guys, I'm telling you, Satan will come at you and try to tear you down. And he'll make you to where one Sunday morning you're like, you know what? What's the use? Why go to church? Why go to church? The dryer broke again. They said they're going to be fixed it. Why go again? All it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to come home and me and my spouse, we're just going to be fighting again. What's the use? And that's exactly what Satan wants to get you to do. What's the use? Just give up. Just give up and quit. But guys, you are not alone. Now I want you to say that. Say, I am not alone. I am not alone. Guys, you're not alone. You're not alone. This Shunammite woman, she didn't ask for all these troubles, and you didn't ask for the troubles in your life neither. You didn't ask for them. But they come. And they're going to come again. And you're going to come over this one, and then there's going to be another. And once you get over that, guess what's waiting for you? There's going to be another. That is why having a church family is so wicked awesome. Because we know that we're all jacked up, and that we all can just go through it together. Together. You're not alone. And this woman here, I love this. I love this. She wasn't alone. And I want to go back to this verse again because I want to show you how not alone you are, okay? Here's how not alone you are. And this again about Hebrews chapter 11. Look at this verse. It says, these all died. They all died in faith without receiving the promises. Guys, you are not alone. You think that Abraham in the Bible didn't struggle? Guys, he struggled. You don't think David and Goliath, you don't think that David struggled? Guys, he struggled. Could you imagine going and facing a 9-foot tall giant of a beastly man with a rock? He struggled. You're not alone in your struggles. No matter how they look. No matter how pretty Satan paints you about the grass being green on the other side. Doesn't matter. You're not alone. These guys all died. They all died. Every single one of them died. And they hadn't received the promise. And maybe you're saying, well, I'm waiting for my marriage to get better. I'm just waiting. God, I married this person that you wanted me to. And Wow, I need some help here, God. You're not alone. All with your family. You're not alone. With your job, you're not alone. You will struggle. And I want you to understand that when you do, you're not alone. You're not alone at all. If you keep on going through these people's lives and all what they did, they all face something different. So what does this mean about us not being alone? Guys, don't give up. Don't give up on your marriage. Don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on your future. Don't give up on your future mate. Don't give up on your life. Don't give up. You're not alone. We all struggle. It might look a little different, but we all struggle. We all struggle. And these guys struggle. But you don't understand. You just don't understand. Because we fight every week. We fight. And you just don't understand. We're like this woman. We've been praying and praying and praying. And you don't know how bad. If I take one more pregnancy test, I'm going to absolutely scream. Guys, I'm telling you. Don't give up. Because we all struggle. Every one of us struggle. And these guys struggled. And you're going to struggle. And this woman, guess what she was doing? She was struggling. And here's what she said. Everything's going to be all right. It's not all right now. I'm going through a lot of trouble. It's hard. It's hard. But everything's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. I want you to hold on to your faith. Hold on to the fact that you will lose weight. Hold on to the fact that you will get through life. Hold on to the fact that you and your husband will get along. Hold on. Don't give up. But there's a second thing I want you to understand too, what she did. And I think that if we can do this, we could overcome anything. First, understand you're not alone. Because Satan wants to isolate you and keep you from you will not have any interaction with God or His people. And if he can do that, he's defeated you. If you can do this, what she does, and I love this. When she runs to the problem, does she run to her husband? All she goes to her husband, I need the keys to the horses. What? I need the rain. What do I need? I need some transportation. I'm leaving. That's all she said to him. Who does she run back to? She runs to the man of God. She runs back to the one who gave the promise. You will have a son this time next year. And guys, we've got to do the exact same thing with our lives. And all the promises that God has got for you to do. Everything is in your life. I don't care what it looks like, what it may be. You need to run back every time that this world struggles with you and you start to forget or you lose sight or you lose hope. You need to run back to the one who gave you the promise to begin with. God, you gave me this man in my life. Now help me to love them and see them the way you do. God, you gave me these beautiful children. Help me to love them and see them the way you did. God, you gave me this job, and it's hard, and I can't stand this woman, and this guy gets on my nerves, and if I hear one more knock-knock joke, I'm going to punch that guy right in the throat. God, help me to get through this. God, run back to the promiser. If you will do this, you'll be just like Abraham and Noah and Elisha and Elijah and Jacob and Israel and David and Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego and Paul and Peter and John and James and Bartholomew and Thaddeus. Guys, you will do that if you will run back to the promiser. But if you start running back to your old habits and your old way of life, you will never see your promises fulfilled. Run to the promiser. He's the one who gave the promise. He's the one who done it. So she ran back to the promiser. I love that. She quit laying. She said, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to lay him on his bed. Lay a dead boy on somebody else's bed. How would that make you feel? You come into your house and somebody else says, oh yeah, my dad's son's laying on your bed. That would not make you feel good, would it? That's what she does. Why? She's running back to the promiser. I want to share this verse with you, and I absolutely love this. This is not in your notes. But this is just one of my favorite verses. I really like it. It says, this is in Psalms 61, verse 2. It says, when this world overwhelms me, I run to the rock that is higher than I. I love that. That's where you run to. The promiser. You run to the one. Don't start reminiscing about, wow, I wish I could go back 18 years ago and I would have never stood at that pulpit and I would have never married that person. If I could go back, I would have. Oh, guys, instead of reminiscing, run to the promiser. God, you're going to get me through this. Remember what you've done? You're going to get me through this. Maybe Satan's coming to tell you, he said, what? You're on your fourth marriage and there ain't no hope for you. Guys, there is hope for you. Run to the one who can do something about it instead of reminiscing in your own pity party. Run to the promiser. Here's something awesome you can do. A way that you can run to the promiser. And this is something tangible for you can do. One of my favorite words. Pray. He says this in Philippians chapter 4, and I love this. It says, don't worry about anything, but in everything, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. How about let God know what you need? God, I need this. Would that be all right to say, God, I need this. God, you're awesome, but I need this. And look at what it says. This is verse 7. It says, and the peace of God, which surpasses every thought, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Guys, what do you do when the promises of God seem at best partially unfulfilled? Realize you're not alone. That you all struggle. Run to the promiser who can do something about it. That you can regain your faith and regain your focus. That's what we're doing for 2014. That's what we're doing with living on the edge. We're going to live on the edge for God. Just because you're living on the edge does not mean you're not going to struggle, or have arguments, or have fights, or have debt. What that means is, you know the one who holds the world in his hands. Run back to the promiser. If you can grab onto this, I think this will help you put it all in perspective. I will seek God and hold on to every promise, even when it's hard. It's easy to love your spouse when they're cooking your favorite meal or picking everything up. It's easy to love your kids when they're behaved, isn't it? Oh, it's so easy. Oh, I got the best kids. They're awesome, and they look like little angels. But then when they go off and they break your mother's dishes and they're just screaming and you can't get them to calm down, you're like, little devils, and it's hard. I encourage you to write this down, to remember and do something that I will hold on to the promises of God even when it's hard. I will not give up. I will not lose heart. I will not lose faith. I will hold on to the promises of God even when it's hard. Even when it's hard. I will hold on to the promises of God. I put this on Facebook the other day, and I was overwhelmed with how many people said something about it. It's not what we do, but in whom we trust that makes all the difference. Guys, I'm telling you it does. It makes all the difference in the world. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. If you can hold on to these promises, you'll be an overcomer. In 2004, we were blessed with Abney Johnson, our firstborn. It was awesome. And we had this typical idea and plan that we were going to get married, we was going to have 2 kids, that's the number you're supposed to have, 2 kids. And it was all going to be great. It was almost 2 years later, and we found out that we were wanting another baby so bad. So bad. And we kind of felt like this woman here. We got our hopes up and we were trying, just waiting, like, God, where's it at? And it finally happened. And then we had a miscarriage. And it devastated us. I don't know that I've ever felt so abandoned and alone. God, where are you at? We were reading our Bible, we were praying together, we've been on mission trips together. And we lost a baby. It hurt. 2 more years later, we found out that we're expected again. And this would have been with Eliana. She's amazing. And right after that, it kind of happened. We got the hang of it, because right after that, we got Natty Cakes was born. And Natalie. It was awesome. And we just didn't have peace about quitting. So we were just praying and seeking God, and then we found out we're expecting again. We were so excited. And then we lost that one too. And you'd think that after the second time that would be easier. It was hard. Run to the promiser. It is going to be hard. It's going to be tough. Just because you set out 2014, just because you set out to have kids, doesn't mean that it's just going to be, it just happened. It does not work that way. I will hang on to the promise of God even when it's hard. Because you're going to be tested in ways that you never thought possible. I announced my call to preach in 2005. Okay, God, I'm the ultimate God follower here, okay? Because here I am, I've been going to church and we've been reading the Bible, and now I'm going to preach your word. It's going to be awesome. That was in 2005. It was great. In roughly 2 years, we've done a lot of stuff. It was awesome. It was amazing to see what God had done in our lives. One Sunday after church, we'd been playing outside all day. It was in April. It was a beautiful day. And I get a phone call. And I'm outside playing with the girls, and Amanda brings me the phone, and she says, "You need to take this." I'm thinking, oh, okay, what would be wrong? And as I'm holding the phone to my ear and through the other end, I hear the words that one of my bestest good friends had committed suicide. That don't happen. The best friend of a preacher doesn't commit suicide. I mean, you're supposed to be able to go to him and talk things out and to get through it. It was tough. From April of 2007 to November of 2007, I counseled 10 people with suicide. And then in November, this is Sunday before Thanksgiving, we had come home from church. And I was outside letting the dog out. And my wife came on the porch and she said, "It's Kevin." She didn't have to tell me, I already knew. I could hear her voice. And see, this other guy, Kevin, he was the one who taught me about computers. He was the one who made me into the person I am today. He was my mentor. I love this man. 34 years old. He took his life. And I was like, God, what in the world is going on here? Do I need to just quit? What do I need to do? And this is what God reminded me through His Word. You hang on to me. You don't hang on to this world. You hang on to me. I'm the one who sustains you. I'm the one who gets you through this. When this world overwhelms you, you run to me. You pray to me. You don't worry about all this stuff. You run to me. I will hang on to the promises of God, even when they're hard. Now I want to ask you, what are you facing right now in your life? Would you bow your head and close your eyes with me just for a moment? What are you facing right now? Maybe it's hard. Maybe it's tough. Maybe you have tried to lose weight for years and it's just getting, I just want to give up. Guys, hang on to the promise. This is what God's leading you to do, that I'm telling you. Hang on to it. You need to make a commitment today. You need to understand the fact that you are not alone. That you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. I would love that opportunity to pray for you. Nobody's looking around and heads are bowed. Eyes are closed. Just between you and God. I just want the opportunity to pray for you. Would you just stick your hand and say, yes, I've got something going on. There's hands going up. I've got stuff going on. I've got stuff going on. I've got stuff going on. I want to pray for you. Father God, you see these hands. And I pray, God, that you'd help us, that we've got stuff going on, that we would understand that as Satan tries to isolate us, that we would realize, God, that we are not alone. That we are not alone. That we all struggle. And we all get discouraged. And that just because something happens doesn't mean that it's over. Doesn't mean that we give up. Help us, God, to remember we're not alone. Those of you who are here, maybe some of you said, you know what, I know that we're not alone. I know that we're not alone. But I need to hang on to the promises of God. Would you make a commitment to God this morning? Right now, would you make a commitment to God and say, you know what, I'm going to hang on to your promises. I know your promises, and I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to lose heart. I'm not going to lose faith. I'm not going to lose sight. I'm going to hang on to the promises. Would you call on God right now? Call Him right now. Just call Him right now and say, Lord God, I need you. Forgive me when I forget. You're in control. Help me not to lose sight of your promises. Lord God, when this world overwhelms me, I run to you. Today, God, I choose to run to you. Today, God, I'm forgetting what's behind me and looking forward to what's ahead. I'm running to you. Father God, you're an awesome, amazing God. We don't ask for these troubles. We don't ask for these struggles. We want everything to be hunky-dory. We want everything to be fine and peaceful. We want everybody to get along. We want everybody to be fine. We want everybody to be healthy. But when it really comes down to it, God, we struggle. And we all struggle. Help us, God, to remember that we're not alone. And as this morning, as we have made commitments, God, that we would look to you. That when we get down and out, that we're going to run to you, God. We're not going to let Satan talk us out of going to church. We're not going to let him talk us out of quitting. We're not going to let him talk us out of giving up on our family or our kids or our diet or our exercise or our health or our parents or our spouse. We're going to run to you. You, God, are the one who sustains us. So you, God, are the one we're going to run to. Fill us up, God, with your love. That as we leave here today, we will praise you, whether we're on the mountaintop or whether we're down in the valley. It's through Jesus we pray.